Yeah, the Mind Gym was, when I took over training, one of the things that we were looking at was resilience in terms of how guys were, we'd been at war for over 10 years at that point. There were guys who were coming back, they were broken both mentally and physically. In addition to that, how could guys do better? Like, how could we perform better? And I and a few others believed that it wasn't about benching more weight or running the mile any faster. Physically, we were fine. Our next leap in performance was going to be from mental aspect. How could we train our brains in ways that allowed us to perform better? So the Mind Gym was really just an experiment in getting a bunch of resources together that could help guys develop a better working relationship with their brain. Some of it was understanding HRV breathing, for example, and how our parasympathetic and sympathetic systems work when it comes to our physiology. Some of it was the float tanks in terms of getting some resilience and relaxation. Some of it was mental acuity drills and things like that. So we were just throwing a bunch of things against the wall to see what stuck. And then the other collateral goal for that initiative was to help guys if they in fact were suffering from any PTSD or traumatic injury that they weren't necessarily seeing. And the theory behind that, at least mine, which my leadership fortunately, or some of my leadership fortunately agreed with, was SEALs, most Type A endeavors actually aren't the first people to raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'm sick or I'm broken." Okay, because you're afraid you're going to get pulled off the line. So we're very mute about what we perceive to be weakness. So if our elbow is hurting, we're not going to say anything because if it takes me off the mission, I'm going to be pissed. So when I was working on the Mind Gym stuff, I was recalling several years prior, one of our really fantastic leaders had looked at how SEALs were working out and realized that SEALs were, over the course of a career, really breaking themselves physically. One of the reasons was because we were working out in insane ways. The SEAL workout was like, hey, do as much as you possibly can, as hard as you possibly can, and that's the workout. So let's do 1,000 flutter kicks. How about that? Well, so and you just do it, right? So and we realized that's not the right way to work out. This leader said, you know what? I'm going to start bringing in some functional fitness. Started looking at sports teams and things like that. How can we bring in a level or a way of working out that allows for guys to have longevity and strength and endurance? And so what he did very brilliantly is he knew he couldn't change. To change a SEAL's workout back then is sacrosanct. You're not supposed to touch it. So what he did is he brought in some of these coaches and then got some really kind of responsible and very well-renowned team guys who were just into teams, got them involved, made them believers, kind of early adopters, and then just said, hey, just go to the gyms and start working out this way, And so they're working out this way, and then guys are looking at what they're doing, and then they're saying, oh, wait, what are you doing? And they're modeling. One of the benefits of this now was that now guys were starting to work out in a way that allowed them a relationship with, say, a physical trainer or something, so that the physical trainer could be working with them, for example, and say, you know what, I'm noticing that when you do this shoulder exercise or whatever, your left shoulder is not carrying as much weight as your right shoulder. There may be something wrong there that you need to get looked at. And so now this guy is voluntarily going to the physical therapist to fix his shoulder, rather than guys saying, "Oh, something's wrong with my shoulder," right? So the injuries or the detriments are being pointed out in terms of getting better versus being worse. I felt we could do that the same way mentally. So in other words, if we could have guys begin to develop working relationships with their brain and maybe be working with for example, mental performance coach, in the conduct of that work, the mental performance coach could say, you know what, I'm seeing there's something here that's preventing you from taking this next leap. There's something in there. You may want to why don't you go see the psychologist and see if you can work that, get that figured out. Now you got a guy volunteering to go to the psychologist to work stuff out, right? Whole different aspect.